Hey y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. We are Real Estate Elevated, and today's episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina Now What is a shorts edition. We often get asked, what inspections can I expect when I go under contract? Well, of course, there are some that are a little bit more common than others, and a few that are very specialized to that particular property. Full disclaimer, always make sure you know what inspections are needed before you go under contract. There might be some systems you want to inspect yourself before you actually are locked into that home. So the first one, and this one is for new construction, is going to be a pre-drywall inspection. That pre-drywall inspection is just what it sounds like. Before you put the walls up of the home, you can still see the infrastructure. So your plumbing, your electrical, the actual foundation, and the framework of the home. This one is often one that people skip. We do not recommend that. We always want you to take those opportunities to look at the home in its entirety. I have yet to have my inspector find a home that was in perfect condition. Even with all of those eyes on the property, keep in mind human error is something that can happen. The second one, and this is something we see on both new construction and resale homes, is just your general inspection. This one's going to be a little bit longer and more in depth, especially depending on the age of the home. You want to make sure your inspector is looking at everything from top to bottom. Something that does not have to be included is an evaluation of the roof. So always make sure you choose somebody that's getting drone footage and is giving you the full 360 and from 30,000 feet kind of view of your property. The third one is a pest inspection. A lot of times this gets called a termite inspection, but keep in mind we have lots of bugs and critters here that can eat the wood. We do have a high level of moisture, so often you want to be really cognizant of not just the house itself, but any opportunities for those little pests and critters to get super excited about a potential buffet. So if you see any wood, like for, let's say, a fireplace that's stacked near the house or even underneath in the crawl space, you want to get that out. That is critter food that's going to cause a lot more issues further down the line. Another one is radon. This one's a little freaky because a lot of people have not heard of this prior to coming to North Carolina. Not to get too down in the weeds on the science of this, but it literally has to do with the soils in the ground. Your neighbor might have it and you might not. You also can find these in high levels, like in condominium buildings. So make sure that just because it's a high rise, you're still verifying that there's no radon present. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas that is actually the #1 cause of lung cancer in non-smoking adults. So it is serious when it's present, but it's simple to fix with the mitigation system. You also want to be aware if there is a well on the site, so where you get your water, that if the home pops high for radon, you're also testing for radon in the well. So speaking of a well inspection, so you want to make sure if it's private or community. Oftentimes you actually have a blended environment where multiple people could be tapping into the well. So you want to check for levels of bacteria and things like E. coli to make sure that whatever you're drinking doesn't have too much of a bad thing or even too much of a good thing. In some cases, the water might have, let's say, too high of zinc. There's actually filters you can put on the well to make sure that your body's not taking in something it wasn't intended, or at least in that level that it is present in the water. Another big one is septic. Septic is another thing that kind of throws a lot of our out-of-state buyers because it's not common everywhere in the United States. Septic systems can only be put in certain types of soils, so that's probably one major reason why. But a septic system, well, what is it? It's your on-site wastewater system. Yes, wastewater, guys. So we are talking about when you go to the bathroom, where does it go? Into your septic system. So you always want to have a septic inspection to make sure that it's working properly, and you want to see how full that guy is, because if it gets a little too full, you could end up having a mess in your yard, and it's not the type of mess that anyone wants to deal with. A couple others that might get thrown at you, and it really just depends on the house itself, or some specialist inspections. So you might call in a pool inspector, a roof inspector, a plumber, HVAC, electrical, maybe even a structural engineer, or somebody to investigate the crawl space. We do have two different types of foundations here. We have a crawl space as well as a slab. Keep in mind, a slab means there's no space under the home. Crawl space kind of looks a little similar to a basement in some capacities, but it's not finished. That is the opportunity to go ahead and check out and see if there's any high levels of moisture down in that space. So these are just a snapshot and a couple of inspections you can expect here in the great state of North Carolina. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. All right, y'all, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on Instagram as well as YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate.